Welcome back, everybody, to Catching You. I am your co-host, Rusty Ham. My other co-host, my daughter, Lacie, is settling in to her senior year. She just got back to San Jose State, and she is settling in. So this is going to be a solo cast, and the reason why she's not on is she's actually starting a new adventure. She's going to start a podcast with some of her friends there at San Jose State, and she's creating a mental health organization at San Jose State called Mind Strong Spartans. It's kind of it came off of what she was been doing the last 3 years, which was it's called Damn Worth It, which was originated in Oregon State. And then they just got rid of that organization at San Jose State. So she is actually creating this new mental health organization at San Jose State for athletes performing, performance, mental health performance, which is really cool. This is kind of something that she wants to do after college or after she gets her master's. So I'm looking forward to her starting that. She's going to have social media. I think she's going to do, a separate podcast than what we're doing here. So she's on her way to doing some great things as far in the mental health space, right? And her and I, we've talked about it before on other episodes. It's more for performance, mental health. And we've talked about it before, we're not kumbaya, where we need safe space and something bothers us, we need we always have to talk about it. That's not her. She's not one to say, oh, always express your feelings or whatever. But there is a time and place where athletes need help. She needed help after her freshman year. She was struggling. It was a freshman year, so she saw the sports psychologist at the school. It's free for her, so she just started, and then she's been using him ever since, and it's been very helpful for her. She's gotten through some tough times in college, right? She hasn't always been performing well. She's had some great games, but she has also had some not so great games, and so she'll just go in there and just and just talk, right? And that's super important, because she'll tell you too, if you keep all that kind of stuff in, it builds up over time, and a lot of times it doesn't end well. You get frustrated, you get burned out. So she has really utilized this sports psychologist on campus, and with this new adventure that she's doing, it's called Mind Strong Spartans, and it's going to be for any of the athletes that need to that just need help getting through situations. She's been through a lot in her career. So in softball, we've talked about it many times on her journey. We've talked about it on many of the episodes, the ups and downs and everything between. We've talked about it, and so she's going to utilize her experience to help other athletes, which is awesome. So there's a few things I wanted to get across as far as what I wanted to talk about in the solo cast. And it's just kind of some of the things that have been in my mind, some of the things that I've seen on social media that have come up from friends of mine, Coach Margot, Coach Devin, a few others that Sam Bannister, Coach Sam Bannister, a lot of things that they have been posting, and you can look them up on TikTok, but a lot of things that they've been posting is true. It is definitely something that I've experienced. Again, I was a high school basketball coach and softball coach, not all 30 years. So 30 years of high school basketball coach, probably 8 years of softball. And I've gone through a lot as far as with parents, other coaches, other organizations. So I've been there. I've been there and I've done that. Now I just get to chill, right? She's her senior year of college, and now I could just enjoy her senior year and maybe we continue with this podcast and talk about other things, but there's a few things that have been coming up on social media, and that I wanted to touch upon as far as a father and the expectations as a parent, right? It's super important that parents give their kids some space and realize that it is just a game. But the first thing I wanted to talk about was, because getting into travel ball, that was a decision we made really early. She was 9 years old. And, a lot of people are like, 9 years old, that is super early. It is. Her travel coach, or her all-star coach, started a travel team at the time, it was Team Mizuno. It was when Mike Stith branched off from Batbusters and created Team Mizuno. So we joined that organization. Eventually, Mike Stith rejoined with Batbusters and became the sole owner for that. And we then went with him. But at 9 years old, she pitched well, I guess, at 9. You never know. Some girls will peak early. I saw that a lot, where girls were throwing hard and were intimidating to other teams early, in 10U and 12U, and then they tail off, right? But the one thing you have to, as far as travel ball, and if you're going to enter, it doesn't matter when you enter. If you enter in 10U, if you enter in 12U, is the cost involved, right? Because you think about it, we basically, through her years, and I can give you the numbers. It probably averaged from $10,000 to $15,000 a year, and she started at 9 years old, and she stopped playing at 18. So that's 9 years times whatever number I just gave you. So we basically, through her travel ball career, luckily, and this is not everybody gets as lucky as she did. It happened during COVID. She got recruited by San Jose State. They gave her a lot of money because the new coach came in. All the planets aligned, right? So this is why I'm saying you got to be careful, because all the planets aligned for her at the time COVID hit. San Jose State I think they fired the coach. And so Tammy came in, and they lost a lot of players, because a lot of players didn't think that the coach who got fired, they didn't think that was right. So they transferred, they left, right? So that left a lot of money available at San Jose State. And then Tammy, the new coach, had to replace and create basically a new team. It was like half the team left. So the planets aligned for her, right? She wasn't getting a whole lot of calls. In fact, probably maybe 2 or 3 teams were interested in Lacie during the COVID time. And San Jose State, from video and Lacie sending them videos and stuff, she was able to get a scholarship. Luckily, she got a scholarship and has had, most of her college paid for, right? But not everybody gets that, right? And not everybody gets the money that she got. She got lucky, right? There was money available. The coach needed a team. She needed pitchers, so it was there. It just fell into her lap during COVID. So what I'm trying to say is, if you're going to commit to travel ball, you can't necessarily complain. I wouldn't necessarily complain about the money that's involved. It depends on the organization you're in, right? The organization we were in, you were expected. There was an initial fee, right? An organization fee, and then there was a monthly fee for the workouts, right? So I think it was every Wednesday, or she went twice a week. So it was twice a week. They were expected to go and do these workouts. And, this was an hour away for us. So it was, 2 nights a week was an hour away. And then if you're a pitcher, you're going to have a hitting coach. You're going to have if you're a catcher, you're going to have a catching coach. If you're a pitcher, you're going to have a pitching coach. If you're a pitcher and hitter, you're going to have both, right? So you got to expect to have those fees or expenses, right? And she was having pitching lessons. At the time, she was a pitcher hitter, so she was pitching once a week, hitting once a week. So 4 days a week, we're driving an hour to these lessons, right? So those are the costs involved in that. Then you are traveling, and the Bat Bus organization traveled, right? We would have friendlies locally, but then you're beating up. You guys are beating up on each other. The SoCal teams are beating up on each other. So there was a lot of times where we wanted to travel and get out of the state to play other country, or not countries, other states, other teams. Right? You just can't be playing the same teams over and over again. So we went to places like Florida, Colorado, Kansas City, Oregon. So we were traveling all the time. We went to Colorado every year, and so you got to take consideration how you're going to get there. Okay, gas. If you're going to fly, and then there's airfare, then there's hotel, and then there's food, and so you got to take all that in consideration and budget it out, right? So the reason why we didn't complain is we had a budget, right? We were both teachers. We made a certain amount of money, and the money that we were making, we budgeted. We said, okay, this is the X amount we're going to donate, or not donate, dedicate to Lacie's travel ball. We did that for our son too, so it wasn't like our son was not excluded from this budget. And if she never got a scholarship, it's okay. It was okay. If she never really got it, if she was to go to JC and maybe she just fell out of love with softball and she just didn't want to play anymore, it was okay. We budgeted that amount of money aside for her and her softball because that's what she wanted to do. So we were going to support her. If it's for whatever reason during that time she stopped loving the game and didn't want to play anymore, we would have said okay, and then moved on, right? So as a parent, my suggestion, if you are entering into travel ball, is to set a budget aside, set expectations for your daughter. If you're again, going to lessons, and Lacie will tell you, just going to lessons once a week. You're in travel ball and you're going to lessons once a week. Don't expect to get any better, right? You got to do things outside of your lessons. So, hypothetically, you're going to lessons on Thursday night. Friday, you're doing something. Saturday, probably Saturday and Sunday, you're at your practices. And then Monday and Tuesday, you're doing something. Maybe take a day off from your pitching or your catching or your hitting, but you're doing something outside of your lessons all the time, right? You are sacrificing a lot. Lacie will tell you how much she sacrificed going out with her friends and going on dates and going to dances. A lot of the guys, when she was getting into high school, a lot of guys didn't ask her out because they knew that she was not available. She was, again, going an hour for lessons, hour for workouts, and then Saturdays and Sundays were basically gulped up by either tournaments or practices. So there is sacrifices, and you might say, well, then maybe that's not worth it. Okay, it's not worth it. Don't do it. If you don't think it's worth the sacrifices, then there's a lot of you have to sacrifice in life in order to achieve. And so she made those sacrifices, and luckily it worked out in her favor as far as getting a scholarship. But not everybody gets the scholarship, and that is it could suck. I mean, it's not as a parent that would suck. And I'm going to talk about parent expectations later on. Let's pivot to, this is another thing on social media that gets me too, and I was part of it. And the reason why I took over keeping stats is because parents aren't always truthful when it comes to game changer, and game changer can ruin a lot of relationships within an organization. You might have good intentions when your team starts. You guys are all friendly. There's a honeymoon period with parents, and you're like, oh, what position what does your kid play? Oh, they play center field, and oh, I might play in second, and or whatever. They might play the same position, right? And you guys are like, at first, you have good intentions, and you there's a honeymoon period, but then the honeymoon wears off. Maybe your kid plays the same position as somebody else, and that, hypothetically, let's say shortstop, right? Your daughter's a shortstop. Another parent's daughter plays shortstop, and that parent is doing game changer, right? And then so now that parent is doing game changer. Your daughter's playing shortstop. Ball is hit to her, maybe in the gap, hits her glove. Instead of calling it a hit, that parent calls it an error. You get upset. Words are exchanged. So game changer. There's the good, there's the bad, and there's the ugly. Right. The good is, especially for coaches, you can keep the stats. You can kind of gauge. Okay, this person's hitting 400 and has 5 or 6 home runs. I'm going to put them in the 3 spot or whatever. So for a coach, it's good to have that, because you have that in your back pocket where you can now say the reason why this player is playing this position or in this batting slot is because of this, and here's the reasons why. But it could get ugly if you don't have the right person doing it, right? So the reason I took over game changer on the travel team and in high school was because I wanted to make sure. Now my daughter's the pitcher, right? And so you can say, well, okay, a ball hitting the gap, it hits the the shortstop glove. Do I call it an error or do I call it a hit if my daughter is pitching, right? Integrity wise, I did the right thing, right? I did not change things to favor my daughter. Um, her stats were her stats, because you got to be truthful. So if you are a parent that's doing game changer, you got to be. It's got to be done with integrity. You're not, making an error on another girl because maybe you don't like that player because they play the same position, or you don't like the parents because maybe you got in an argument in the last week. Game changer, again, that's the bad part. And then the ugly is just arguing over errors, arguing over ERA, arguing over batting average. If you mark it an error and not a hit, that's going to drop their batting average, a few points. And now it's like, oh, I'm going to show these, I got to show these stats to these colleges. And I'm letting you know now, if you are one of those people that are into stats, colleges don't care about your game changer stats. 100%, they do not care about your game changer stats. Game changer stats should only be, in my opinion, for the coach. That's it. Parents, you can do your own stats aside, and you can bring it to your kid, at the kitchen table, and say, hey, this is your batting average. But in my opinion, what I do like about game changer and athletes go live, there's a couple of them out there. What I do like is the video portion of it where you can film it. And so if you're not, like my mom, she's not mobile, she's not doing well, but she was able to watch my daughter play, through game changer and watch her stats. So that's the good part about game changer. The bad part, again, is the ones that aren't doing it correctly for whatever reason. And maybe they don't know what an error is. Maybe they don't know what they call it a triple when it was actually a single with a 2-base error. Maybe they don't know what that means. And, sack fly, or, there's a lot of terminology that the parents don't know when they're doing game changers. So they call it a hit when it was, so whatever, they just don't know the lingo. So you just need to get the right person that is non-judgmental, that is just going to keep stats and do it the right way, right? Speaking, and then let's transition to parent involvement. Parent involvement, meaning, again, I've been doing this for 30 years. Parent involvement, meaning you are just way too aggressive, so to speak. Every play, every hit is so much drama. I guess it would be called the drama queens and kings. That you are right up against the fence. You're commenting on balls and strikes. You're commenting, when your daughter gets up to bat, and you're commenting on every at bat. You're telling her how to swing, and don't swing, watch for that, watch for the rise ball, and you're telling her what to watch for, and you're just every aspect of what your daughter is doing, you are commenting or you're just involved. Where they're 10, they're 12, especially a preteen. Just let them play. As a parent, just watch. I know it's tough sometimes when your child is struggling, maybe at the plate or on the mound. And I listen. I'm not perfect. I've said it in many episodes. I put so much pressure on my daughter because of the organization she was in. I felt like she needed to perform in order to get on those elite teams. Mark Campbell, more specifically, the 14U, and then Mike Stith, 18. I was putting so much pressure on her when she was 12. I mean, she's not even, and I was just saying, hey, and I was not behaving very well as a parent. I would ignore her when she had a bad pitching session. I would, and she's just like, why is my dad ignoring me? And I was putting so much pressure on her to perform. Granted, I've never pitched in my life. I played baseball up until I was like 8th grade. I mean, I know the game because I coached it and I played it a little bit, but I mean, I'm putting so much pressure on her for what? Right? Because it was going to look bad on me if she didn't perform very well. Right? Through these episodes, I've learned that if she performed bad, it was going to look bad on me, which is a horrible way to think of it. Right? You're not, your parents' performance or your daughter's performance is not a reflection of who you are. Right? You gotta let them go. You gotta cut the umbilical cord at some point. Let them experience what they're experiencing, and let them come to you if they're struggling, or you just ask them how they're feeling about something. Again, this is not kumbaya. It's not. We're not gonna sit in a circle and say, "Hey, how are you feeling today? How do you feel about your at bats?" I'm not promoting that. I'm promoting just chill. As a parent, I'm saying just chill and let your kids. My daughter started thriving when I backed off. When she came to me in the kitchen and started crying and saying, "Dad, you're not acting the way a parent should act." And she didn't say that at 12 years old, but in so many words, she was just saying, you need to stop. And so I stopped. I started being more positive during her pitching sessions. Even if it was a bad one, I tried to pick out the good parts. And then afterwards, I would say, "Hey, how did you feel about that session?" And then she would tell me, "I didn't feel like," and then I would say, and then I would critique her. "Yeah, your changeup was, too high, or your curveball wasn't spinning enough." And so we had really good conversations after that, right? But it took her to come to me, and hopefully, if you're if you're a softball player now, don't be afraid to approach your parents. Because you never know, they could flip it around and say, "You know what, you're right, I need to back off." But parents, seriously, you just need to back off. You're putting a lot of pressure on, and this is going to lead to my last point, and then we're going to head off here. And that'll just be realistic about your kid, right? Yes, my daughter was on these elite teams. Yes, she struggled later on when she was 16, 17 years old, after her injury, but she peaked, right? 12U, she was considered, and they did those extra innings rankings or flow softball rankings, and as a pitcher, she was ranked, I think, top 25 when she was 12 years old. she's ranked up there, right? And then as a parent, I was pounding my chest. I was like, look at my daughter, and I was posting it on Facebook and all that kind of stuff. But rankings seriously doesn't really amount to anything. She peaked, to be honest with you. She peaked at 12, 13 years old. She was throwing high 50s at 13, 14 years old, and right now she's kind of low 60s, probably 62, 63. So she peaked, and so when she got on the Mike Stith's team, and if you're playing for Mike Stith in the 18U, you probably need to be in the mid 60s, with and she was not. She was playing for Mike for a season, and the fall season, her junior year. She's probably again upper 50s, and she's pitching against these elite players that are going to be going to these Power 5 schools, and so she didn't do very well. So we went back to 16s in the spring, and then she played for 18s, on the kind of, we call it the B team for Bat Busters, and she did well. So you got to be realistic where if you feel at some point during the travel ball that and don't be afraid to jump ship and go to another. Like we were committed to Bat Busters, and we were loyal. And loyalty only goes so far, right? I feel like we were too loyal. We started it at when she was 9 years old, and we felt like okay, if we're gonna be loyal, and then she's played for Mark, she's played for Mike Stith, she's easily gonna get a scholarship, and that's not the case. Loyalty can only take you so far. Luckily, we were able to move teams and start and get teams that actually recruited for her and was an advocate for her. So don't be afraid to switch teams where you feel like the team is going to be an advocate, and that they truly have their best interests at heart, and not it's not about the W's, right? Or that their team is only looking for Power 5 players, right? So don't be afraid to move teams. If you feel like, we had a gut feeling, but we didn't trust our gut, and we just kind of powered through it, and it really affected her fall year, her junior year. And then that's when COVID hit. So it actually, if you look at it, it actually was a benefit, because because then San Jose State fired the coach, and just like I said, all the stars aligned right after that. And then again, and on top of being realistic is the pressure part, right? Because if you feel like, if your daughter, and this goes for son too, if you have players playing baseball or basketball, if they're not like at that elite level, be realistic, and don't pressure them. You just hey, you got to do this because you're going to get a D1 scholarship. There's so many different ways to play at the next level that you got to be realistic. And the last thing I'm going to leave you with is, because you're realistic, that you're not putting that pressure on your daughter, you're going to have a better relationship, right? At the end of the day, it's about your relationship with your son or your daughter. It's because softball doesn't last for very long. For example, my daughter's, this is her senior year. She will never play in organized softball. She's not going pro. She's not going to play overseas. She's not doing any of that stuff. She's going to, hopefully be a grad assistant and then get a job and move on with her life. And then that's going to be it. So, and then our relationship, because, obviously we're having this podcast together, our relationship is at an all-time high because we communicate with each other. I respect her. And it all went back to that one day that she was at the kitchen counter crying. Your daughter should not be crying based on what your father or your mother is doing, is putting pressure on you. Let them play. Let them figure it out on their own. Now you're gonna push them, and you're gonna poke and prod, and you're gonna say, okay, you need to do this. You're gonna give them suggestions, but lay off the pressure. Like, if they don't want to play, find something else for them to do. Don't force them to continue to play if they don't want to. Because if you force them, then they're going to have resentment towards you, and then your relationship might be scarred for the rest of your life. And she's going to resent you because you made her play softball. When in fact, she didn't want to play softball anymore. And I've seen that hundreds of times. Again, I've been coaching for 30 years. I've seen it hundreds of times that there's a resentment of the son or daughter towards their parents because of the pressure that they put on them. Right? Be realistic and just understand where they're coming from. Listen to them. Right? Don't talk at them. Talk with them. And just have and again, at the end of the day, it's about having your relationship with your kids is the most important, because it's not going to last forever. They're going to be 21, 22, and they're going to be done with softball. And what are you going to do for the rest of your life? Right? You're going to focus on the past and how they disappointed you during a certain tournament, or you're going to try and have a good relationship with them, and maybe they get married and they have the kids, and you want them to come over to your house. It's just the relationship part is the most important part, and that's what I want to end it on. So I hope you enjoyed this, and Lacie and I will be back. We're going to start. I think I'm going to start interviewing other fathers and getting their perspective. I know Lacie wants to interview fellow players and get their perspective. So we're going to have kind of a back and forth. Now that she's in her senior year, we've gone through her whole travel ball experience, and now we're going to talk a little bit about her college and start interviewing parents and players and get their perspective. So hope you enjoyed this, and I'll catch you guys on the other side. Lacie, if you're listening, I love you.